Welcome, everybody, to the Growthentic podcast with myself and Shane. This is episode 10. Crazy that we've come this far.
Oh my gosh, 10 episodes in. I can't believe it. And this 10th anniversary episode is fire. We've got our usual updates, personal and professional, at the beginning, but you're going to want to listen all the way through because the second half, we've got so much information about AI. Go ahead, listen to episode 9 to overcome your fear and anxiety around it. And then this episode, you can start laying the foundation for how to integrate it into your day to day life and start seeing immediate benefits. All
Thanks
right.
for
Hope you
tuning
enjoy.
in. Hey, Shane.
Hey, Sam. How's it going?
Good. And hello to everyone tuning in as well. It's going really good. We were just chatting for a couple of seconds right before we hit record, but my mind is blown. We have to cut out of our kind of day to days to record these, and I love this time. But sometimes it's so hard to break away from like these insane, like great meetings that you are in, that I'm in, and man, like I haven't even had time to collect my thoughts on just the entirety of the day. But I think this is going to be a great session. We can use the time to unpack everything going on as we normally do. But man, just really great morning so far. Just a lot of learning on my end and just thinking so many things how it could apply to my business.
Yeah, you know what's going to be funny? I think through this conversation, the way it's going to go is we are going to meet at an intersection at our one of our favorite topics. So we'll save a little bit of that there for everybody when as they're hopping in. But I guess maybe just to get it started off like we always do, we're one day earlier recording than we usually do, but we're basically 2 weeks out from last episode. And why don't you go ahead and give us an update of what's going on in life?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that we're nearing the end of Q2 already. That's been a little bit on my mind. I think it's a good time. Just naturally, I just started to think about, all the personal goals that I had set, stuff like eating healthy, training for the marathon, and all that stuff. But nothing like, no revelations or anything like that. But I just thought it's kind of crazy that we're almost 6 months through the year. The last couple of weeks for me, in the best sense, it was boring. Like my days were somewhat predictable. Um, and I really value those types of weeks, right? You can really make some progress on all fronts, whether it's business or personal. So it's been quote unquote boring couple of weeks for me, but amazing. I've been able to really get into full swing around my marathon training. Um, I've had, really good conversations with my wife just about, not only growing our family, but growing our relationship. So it's just been a really good couple of weeks where I've had, so many pockets of time to really dedicate to good conversations and, um, yeah, just working on myself spiritually, physically, and everything in between. So really awesome 2 weeks, and then now we're going into Memorial Day weekend. Really looking forward to some R&R. So yeah, all in all, a couple of good weeks for me.
Awesome. That sounds so great. And I'm glad to hear that you're back on the marathon training, kind of in sync there and getting ready for that in the fall coming up, which is exciting. And I would say boring is can be very exciting, especially when you come out of a time where there's a lot going on and a lot of ups and downs, especially like you've had over the past few months with everything with your eye and surgery and all kinds of things that are really, really big, heavy topics. Like sometimes it's refreshing to just get into those grooves, get into your groove and have a few of those weeks where it's like just kind of, you're just like hitting the button and doing it. You're doing the thing every day, which is awesome. And yeah, super excited to hear about that, and can't wait to get into more dive in on the business side here in a little bit. Um, yeah, any other big topics, things that stand out that you want to go through from the last 2 weeks?
No, I think that's about it, man. Like I said, pretty boring on the personal side of things. Yeah, nothing much else to add, man. How
I
about
feel
yourself?
did I see was it in the last 2 weeks when you had your housewarming party? I
I
felt
did.
like
I
okay.
did. So I had the housewarming 2 weekends ago. We were actually just looking at some photos and some films that we developed, and
Wow.
um, yeah, it was super cool just to like revisit the day through photos. Can't thank everyone enough for coming through, and especially one of our friends who
Mhm.
did a lot of like the behind the scenes planning. So really fun times that day. Definitely paid for it a little bit the day after. Can't really drink like that anymore. But yeah, really good times. Had some family, had a bunch of our friends, pretty much all of our friends there. So yeah, it was a really nice time.
Awesome. I that is the best feeling, like, one, having your own space and settling down, and then to celebrate that move with friends and family and really just, kind of initiate your space and entertain and host for the first time. That's always a really, really fun experience, and one that Mary and I have enjoyed when we've gotten into to new homes. We've had 2 over, I guess, our post grad time frame here, and it's been really nice to have that your own space and be able to entertain, and feels really really good.
Yeah, I agree, man. How about yourself? What's been going on the last couple of weeks for you, man?
Oh my goodness, yeah, I wish we were getting boring over here. I guess it's a little less exciting than it was, but we're health wise everybody's doing pretty well. We got hammered with some type of respiratory infection over the last 2 weeks. So that's always been fun. Probably came from the kids at school because when you have little kids, you'll realize, I think it's probably from 0 to about 5, that they are just petri dishes and bring everything home, and they're very frequently sick, which is normal. They're building their immune system. But then as the parent, you always get to um, get some of the niceties that they share with you. And man, this one really ripped through us, but we're on the mend now. Things are going well. We've got some tests coming back in for Mary, which is great news. And hopefully over the next couple of weeks, we'll have a little bit more direction on what's going on there. There's not been any of them come back super alarming just yet. A few things that are definitely showing up that are giving us more indication of like, okay, we need to go in a direction, but we really need to talk with the doctor to figure out what that looks like. But right now, it doesn't seem like anything, too urgent, I'll say. And we'll just share more as we get more information on it. But overall, mentally and health wise, everybody is in good spirits and overall doing well. The last 2 weeks on outside of the personal side, on the business side of things, have been really good and exciting. And going through this kind of transformation phase now, feels like every few months we're always kind of retooling and growing into and out of our shell, and have been just absolutely electrified by AI right now and the integration. So I can remember back 2 years ago, I was starting to dabble with AI as far as, and when I say I mean the LLMs, primarily ChatGPT, right? Like most people who are engaged in it at some starting level, let's say, beginner level. I've been doing it for about 2 years, and then over time it's gotten progressively more integration. And then I would say at the end of April, early May, we hit an inflection point and finally started to see how to go AI first and like all in on AI. Again, with regards to using daily integration, almost continuous integration of the LLM into our lives. And luckily, Mary is also a big proponent and in sync with that. So we're able to leverage it together, which is even more exciting. And I'm starting to do some like daily tips on my Instagram stories, and I got to build out some reels, but I'm really trying to go in on just tidbits of how I'm using it every day. And there's a bunch of examples that I think we'll be able to get into here as we go. But needless to say, the business is definitely going well. We've learned a lot. We had to recently had a discussion with one of our clients about kind of pivoting, and I love the concept of persevere or pivot. my business coach, that the coaching program that I'm in and a part of, one of the concepts that he talked about when starting a business early on is like every 2 weeks having a meeting with the people that are part of the company or the co-founders that are working on it, having this meeting that's called a persevere or pivot meeting, where you're saying like, are we going to continue in the direction that we're going, or are we going to pivot out of it because maybe the market's changing, your energy alignment is changing and your passion, or you are working with a client and it's working, or and you want to keep going that way, or you want to pivot with that client into something that's more value add. So we were able to have a really productive conversation where we worked with a client. um, Things were not going out, we're not, I guess, executing as planned, and kind of coming out the way we initially thought. But we had such a great conversation that we were able to actually work with them into a new solution that excited them even more than the original scope. And the direction that we had was even more agreeable for both parties. So it was kind of a really neat progression for us, and a big milestone for us to be able to kind of work with something that we were a little, it's a touchy kind of subject to get feedback and give hard feedback to a client. um, but realistic feedback to them that may be perceived as a little bit challenging, and to work through that and come out on the other side of it in like a win-win situation was just like really mind-blowing and an exciting win for us here over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, on that regards, I think two things come to mind. I think the resilience and that mantra of persevere and persist. You apply that to your business, but also applies to, being that we are in the service industry. If we see opportunities to address or bring that type of mantra to the clients whom we serve, I think that goes a long way. So, for this specific example, what happened? Did the client come back and say, "Hey, Shane, Mary, like things aren't working out," or were you just kind of getting ahead of a future problem and saying, let's pause right here and kind of discuss, whether we want to persist down this road, or pivot? Were you kind of the driving force in having that conversation? And yeah, how did the client kind of react to that conversation?
Yeah, definitely. So in this case, we had set out a scope of work that started back in formulating it in January of this year. And then we progressed through into ultimately going into contract at the beginning of April. And then throughout the course of April, we really realized that the original scope and what we were doing had deviated a little bit. And we were providing a service. In this case, we were doing sales, and we entered into a market where I think the market intel and research hadn't been solidified as firmly as we thought. And the amount of work required and the runway to start something, this sales organization, kind of from infancy and from scratch, to get to ROI and payback was going to be a longer time horizon than maybe anybody had originally predicted. And as we started to do that and work with the client on their original business, we realized that, hey, maybe the market right now and where things are at with their current business, maybe it makes sense to actually kind of zoom back out, look at it from a macro level, see where the most value ROI is, and then kind of pivot in that direction. So we were able to work together to be like, this is the intel, this is what we're seeing boots on the ground, this is what we think we can deliver. We were just straight up and honest, like, hey, this has not gone as planned and what we thought, but we've also kind of met a different um foe than we thought we were going to have in the market. And so, hey, why don't we try and figure out how we could generate value in a different way that actually would have faster ROI for them? And in this case, it ended up kind of as we thought through it. We changed up the contract structure a bit, and are going to kind of go back to the drawing board, retool, and then offer something else that is going to be less anxiety inducing and just a better fit on both sides. So it's one of those where we also saw at the same time as we were analyzing it, it's like we knew we were going to end up in a spot where the client wouldn't be happy at the end of the day. Like if we were to just kind of sit on this and keep doing what we were doing for another 6 or 8 weeks, and then we were to look back on it, it would have been that much harder. But I think having what seems a hard conversation earlier on and just being kind of honest and straightforward and just looking at the situation in a very pragmatic manner and like just a really holistic approach to it, we were able to then kind of work our way into a scenario that ended up being a win-win on both sides. So yeah, I think it's like getting out ahead of something that would have been much worse, like a much bigger issue if we had gone down the road, and also getting into something where there's an opportunity to generate a lot more value a lot faster and is a lot more agreeable to all parties. Like that just makes sense, and luckily we had the flexibility in this case to do that. But also in the past, I've had, I've been a part of, I've never actually done this, but I've been a part of contracts that were awarded and then handed right back because whatever happened, a bunch of projects came in and the company felt like we wouldn't be able to deliver on it. And so we've had to hand back a contract, not Obnovit, but other companies that I've worked at. So there's definitely a time to have those hard conversations, and it's surely easier to have it earlier rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, with experience, I think you can easily say that, but for someone that might be doing it for the first time, it it'll go a long way by having that conversation earlier. You might be really scared to have it if it is your first time having, an adjustment conversation,
Hmm.
a scope change conversation. But look, if we just took a sound bite of everything that Shane just spoke about and we sent it to any client, they would appreciate that level of engagement from the service provider. Always thinking about the ROI, all the dollars that these businesses are investing, they would want you to not only just have tunnel vision on what the scope is, but have these moments in time to make those strategic adjustments. That way, everyone comes out of it happy. And look, I could almost bet that if and when this adjusted approach and scope goes very well for both parties here, it will go a long way for potentially an extended relationship and that word of mouth and kind of review aspect of things, will be so much more positive. That case story is really powerful. So I love hearing those stories. Um, I think I've had those inflection points very recently as well, especially with
Mm.
kind of the disruption to the SEO industry.
Yeah.
I was just in a sales call yesterday actually, and we were outlining just the engagement details of how I work with clients, right? We create a strategy and we activate the strategy over the course of several months,
Hmm.
up to a year. And they were always, they persistently asked, like, what if, ChatGPT releases this, or what if Google I/O just happened yesterday, and they talked a lot about AI mode, which is kind of the next phase, the next generation of how people are going to search in the Google ecosystem. And I said, look, yes, we're going to set a scope and have this kind of milestone and engagement detail all kind of laid out from the onset of the relationship, even prior to us signing a contract. But
Hmm.
whenever there's disruptions happening, it's my duty, my responsibility to not only learn about what that disruption is, but then bring that into the initial strategy that we set, prioritize the efforts, and keep going full steam ahead. Without that level of strategic partnership and involvement, from our end as business owners of Novit and Keyrise, our businesses won't last, right? Clients won't come back. They won't have anything good to say about us. And honestly, we're going to become irrelevant by not having that willingness to make those strategic adjustments. I think it's so key, whatever industry that you're in. I mean, we're in totally different industries, but we can relate on the common concepts and important pillars of being able to run a service-based industry. And I think that's a big takeaway for a lot of the listeners here.
Oh man, big time. Yeah, that the words that come to mind to me right now after hearing you say it that way are really strategic partner, and that's what we're always looking to try and do is be a strategic partner where we could add value in as many places as possible. And I've done it very frequently where one client, they just happened to be working with me on a project, and they said, hey, we really have this problem, do you know anybody that, could you make a referral, or could you help us out? And I actually just said, you know what, I can't do that in house, but I will gladly give you a referral to a trusted company. These guys are the best. And ironically, the client in this case ended up engaging with my referral, and then they have been the referral knocked out of the park and really kind of helped them in a big way. And that just really solidified our relationship even more, and gain that kind of respect and strategic partner where I'm always looking out for like what is best for the customer, the client. And like what you were saying is you're actually kind of eyes on the ground for them with all these disruptions and this big amount of change coming. You can see that and feed it into them to be almost a strategic advisor along with the partnership. So that way it may even lead to expanded scope for you or additional work down the road, or maybe that contract just keeps growing and growing in length because you just keep generating value for them.
100%. And it takes work. And I think it's different by industry. But for my industry, it's not just a matter of reading news, watching things like Google I/O, but it's very involved ways of staying informed. And I think we talked about it in the last episode as far as like staying relevant in this kind of crazy revolutionary period centered around AI. Um, I've had probably 8 demos with different technology partners, potential partners, as far as how we can monitor and track visibility in the models. Um, that's stuff that you can't get on the news or just by doing research, right? Eventually, maybe, but right now it's so early, and the nature of disruption, news changes every single day. And to, create those dotted lines to other entities, other organizations, other people, big thought leaders in this space. That's all educational material that only not only makes you a better SEO provider or whatever provider, but just makes you a better strategic partner to all of your clients and future clients. That goes such a long way. It takes a lot of time, but we talk about time investment a lot here. That time investment goes such a far away from me that I don't see it as something that's tough to do. It actually brings me a lot of joy to learn about such new things that are going to be so invaluable to all of my clients.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Staying on top of things and sharing what you're learning and what you know. I used to have this mindset around like, well, you would learn stuff and you want to just retain that and keep it in as much as you could. But really, it's about learning it, processing it, and putting it into a format that others can understand and resonate. And really, this mantra of a rising tide lifts all boats, and shining your light out there, you will get back from the universe what you put out there. So if you're putting out there everything that you learn, everything that you know, and you can show what it is. And you don't always have to give the how, right? That's a little bit of the secret sauce. But if you're showing what you're doing day to day to help other people, that is going to just generate so much good PR, marketing, and interaction and energetic exchanges that the universe is just going to really deliver a ton to you. And there's probably a lot of people out there who, if they're listening to this, would be like, oh, energy and frequency and conversations and all this thing. Like it sounds a lot of like woo type stuff. But I can assure you, when you get to the point to make the commitment and make a jump, whether it be in your career to another job or out on your own or growing your business, one of the biggest factors of how successful you're going to be is the energy that you bring to it, the mindset, and that kind of like frequency that you're living your life at is going to get you whatever you put out is going to get returned right back to you. So it is critically important. There are some really, really good books out there. The one that comes to mind is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That one is a super duper classic. I don't even remember when he wrote that, a long time ago. And it's still just about every word of it still is true, except for maybe some of the references and things of that nature are kind of like time bound. But outside of that, the concepts are timeless. And everybody who is successful at whatever they're doing today, both personally and professionally, those concepts will help you be better. And it is absolutely unequivocally true that those concepts have to be followed in order to get to the next level for sure.
Yeah, and Shane, you said, going back to the beginning of what you were saying as far as like, yeah, we don't have to say exactly how we do everything, but let's put out kind of the concepts, things that are tangible that you can see. Um, I'd even challenge that for at least our audience. Like, I'll show how I do things, right? Because
Yeah.
I am so confident that even though everyone, if in this world, like all the SEOs were taught by me and I told them how to do everything, we're all different people. There's so
Yeah.
many different elements to an individual SEO person that there's enough deals out there for all of us to eat, right? So I had, there was a moment in time before I started my business where I thought everything to me is proprietary. I'm not letting anyone know. This is the only way I'm going to get deals. This is the only way I'm going to become profitable. And that was so false. There's so many reasons why this was so false. One that comes to mind is if you're able to teach someone how to do it, you're only going to
Mm.
get better at doing it. That's
Yes.
one. The second one is just there's enough deals out there. Teach
Mm.
people, put free material out there, let someone else get a deal. Because that if that keeps happening, similar to what you were saying, putting the right energy and frequency out there, deals will come through. People will resonate with the owner of that idea. I don't think any idea is truly original. But don't be afraid to put it out there. It's so beneficial not only for you but for everyone around. And trust me, there everyone is going to eat as long as you're persistent with your messaging, right? Not just
Yes. Yeah.
doing it one and done. Like from my perspective, that doesn't mean just posting on LinkedIn once in a blue moon. It's having a set schedule, planning your content. The messaging has to be cohesive, has to be strong, has to engage a click, things of that nature. Those are all kind of foundational elements, but yeah, being persistent, like you were saying before, making adjustments if we need to, but persistence, I think, goes a long way. And yeah, not just holding on to all this proprietary stuff that you think is so unique to you, and just being open hearted and willing to share across the board, I think goes a tremendously long way.
Yes. I love that 100%. Definitely agree in all respects there, and just yeah, shine your light and come from that abundant mindset, because the moment that you do start sharing all of that stuff and the details of it and helping other people succeed, that's when you're really going to be in the abundant mindset. And again, the universe is going to return back what you're putting out. So when you get into that state, you're going to be unstoppable. You just got to stay persistent in getting and staying in that state. And that's something that I'm always working on. It is not easy. I will tell you that you can fall out of it very quickly. But the most successful people out there are the people that are in their belief 100% of the time. They have 100% clarity on what they want, and they're doing that 100% of the time.
For sure. Well, look, let me give a couple of quick updates on my end on the business side.
Yeah.
And I
Let's hear it.
definitely want to go into, we kind of teased it as far as, showing a little bit more around like what we're doing. I think you used the word electrified. And honestly, like you had me right there. Like, I certainly want to dig into some of the latest kind of advancements, but also I think it's a moment in time for us to be enabled, right? AI enablement. I think that's a phrase that's been on my mind a lot, where everyone's trying to learn, but we can use this platform and this forum for us to enable folks, no matter where they are in their AI journey, with some tangible kind of takeaways and tips. So, yeah, definitely want to get into that bit a bit more. But before we do, on the business side of things, for me, um, I'm kind of in this point in time where there's a lot of things happening externally and internally, right? Just the nature of running a business. There's lots of potential deals that I'm nurturing right now, which is really exciting. Onboarding my employee to be able to take um, those deals and work autonomously. So a lot of things happening internally, but a lot of external factors that are really shaping how I do things for my business. So things like strategy creation, how we monitor data and KPIs for all of our clients. There's so many tactical and strategic things that are getting really warped by all of the external disruptions. And the most kind of relevant thing right now is around Google I/O. I haven't listened to what happened yesterday. I'm getting texts, LinkedIn messages. My feed is just riddled with takeaways right now, and all I can say is that there is a massive shakeup happening with the
Mm.
way that people are searching. Not even on the models, but this is obviously it's Google's um, conference, so it's their kind of rebuttal to the rise in usage around all of the models right now, and so. Um, I am just taking this approach of learn, monitor, and test so that I become a better SEO for my clients, but also so that I can teach my one employee and hopefully future in the future more employees on the way that we have to understand and push forward an SEO program that is meaningful in this new day and age of SEO. So that's where I've been really focused on. That's where I want to be focused on, which is great, being kind of this strategic face of my business with the right supporting cast, working on all of the more day to day. So things are definitely moving fast right now, maybe a little too fast, but it's really exciting. I can see the evolution of how my business can become more relevant
Mm.
and more impactful for businesses out there because that's core to my mission, helping out more and more people and their businesses and the businesses that really mean a lot to them. So yeah, that's what's been going on.
Exciting. Yeah. I can't wait to maybe get some more next episode for you to drop some more knowledge there, specifically around where you think the Google ecosystem is going and how that is going to work alongside of the newcomers in the space from the sense of like search and ranking and all of that, like ChatGPT, Perplexity, to some degree, Claude, all of these different tools that are out there right now. So I am really excited about it. And I know that the way you see it is totally different. And I would love the expert take on where things are going and what you're seeing in the marketplace today. And yeah, maybe that'll be something we can tee up for our next episode for sure.
Absolutely. And let me give a little teaser.
Yeah.
If anyone's in the SEO space, this might hit a bit of an emotional chord with you. If you're tracking keyword rankings and if you're tracking traffic as your main metrics of success, you are going to be left behind. That is getting entirely replaced because the ways that all search engines are now retrieving information and ranking you is completely like a 180-degree flip from the traditional ways in which these engines retrieved information in the past. So if you're tracking keywords, if you're tracking traffic as your barometer for success, you're going down the wrong path. So
Mm.
we'll talk more in detail about how these models and engines are using RAG, using vectors, embeddings. These are all more like maybe we need more of like a technical enablement session just to understand the concepts of how
Yeah.
um, these engines are, pulling information and qualifying high quality content and authority. Um, but yeah, what that boils down to is that the ways in which we were really assessing the success of individual projects all the way to an SEO program is getting completely shifted. So
Wow.
stay tuned for that.
Oh my goodness. That is probably scary in a lot of ways and exciting in just as many ways. So I am excited to learn more as a observer on the outside, knowing very little about SEO and how the inner workings of that all go on. But what I will say is, and I don't know if it's just coincidental, but I feel like I did notice the search results on Google, which I haven't been using that much lately, but I all of a sudden went back to something that I had searched for maybe just a few months ago. Like 3 months ago, I had done the search and I'm like, oh, okay, normally I always get these hits. I get these things on Reddit, and that's where I typically go for whatever it was. And all of a sudden I hit it and I'm like, wait, none of what I clicked on a few months ago is on the first page now. Guess what? On the second page now. So it's like, I think what I'm observing is probably what you're seeing in real time. And it is, yeah, my brain is kind of like, wow, okay, I need to change that up a little bit and like be like, okay, this is going to change. So my normal patterns and habits of where I retrieve information of like, go to Google, type in this make and model number. That'll bring me a cut sheet of this particular physical item. Well, that no longer really is necessarily where I always used to think it used to be for the last, we're talking like probably 5 plus years. I've just gone there, done that. And I know like in the first page, I'll have my normal little like places that I go to, right? I don't even bookmark them. I just go to Google. Well, that is all changing now. And interestingly enough, something that we can get into here in a little bit is just my mindset shift around how I'm using even not only just the internet, but my computer day to day is changing. And, that'll be one piece of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. But yeah, any closing thoughts there on the SEO teaser?
I guess my closing thoughts there is the experience that you have working with ChatGPT, Claude, that is here now for Google. They're testing it out for for the US only. It's called AI mode, so you'll see it as a
Hmm.
tab, but don't be surprised if in the next 6 to 12 months when you go to Google, you will now be interacting with a kind of chatbot experience similar, if not better, than ChatGPT. So
Hmm.
stay tuned. I'll certainly give updates as I see, and we'll certainly dig in a little bit further so it's more actionable and there's actual things that you can take away from these conversations.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you out there, LinkedIn, Instagram? Why don't you go ahead and give out your preferred way to get in touch?
Yeah, for me, it's LinkedIn all day, every day. So if you just look me up, Sam Lee, company name is Key Rise Consulting. You can also look up Growthentic Podcast. You should be able to find me.
Nice. I love that. And very excited to dig into that, both from the basics and fundamentals, as well as a little bit more about under the hood, what's going on with these search engines and the intersection with those and the AI LLMs and how that's all going to shake out, and get your thoughts, predictions, and current live status on all that.
Oh my God, we should do like once the turn of the new year is like right ahead of us, we should do some sort of like top predictions for SEO, maybe for your industry, and just revisit those in 12 months to see if we're right or wrong,
Oh my
and on
gosh.
what. That'd be fun.
Yes, we definitely should do that and preserve that for historical purposes because it's going to get exciting.
For sure, man. Okay, let's get into it, man. I want to give you the floor for a little bit here. Um, I know just between me and you, you've been in um, professional development mode around enabling AI for your business. So yeah, I'd love to give you the floor if you have any general updates around that, but also if you want to maybe show some things that and we all realize that nothing is ever a finished product. So things are always changing. But if there is some, MVP of how you're using AI for a specific use case, we'd love to. I mean, I would love. I'm so stoked for this to see, how you guys are leveraging AI and maybe something that I can take away. And I certainly can add a couple of things around how I'm leveraging AI, but we'll get to that in a little bit as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I have been giddy about talking through this because it's been top of mind and just a big unlock. I mean, earlier I described it as electrified. Everything that we're going to get into really builds upon our last episode. So if folks go back and look at episode 9, that has a lot about the fear of AI. And we started to broach into kind of the fundamentals, but really it's about dealing with a new technology that is scary at first. And so that last episode, I feel like we did a really good job, and people can jump back to that one to kind of go through like, oh, what should I do if I'm really scared about this? Okay. Well, it's first of all, you got to learn a lot more about it so that way you can understand it. Some of the transformational things that you can visualize for like how this is going is there's the example of the horse and buggy and all the horses. There's a really famous picture in New York City of in Manhattan, a street there, and the picture is in this. It's time stamped. It's filled with horse and buggy. Right? Everybody's got horses and buggies. Well, 13 years later, that same photographer went there, took that same photo, or I guess I shouldn't say. I don't know if it was the same photographer, but they took the same photo at the same position 13 years later, come no horses, no horses, only cars, right? You had the Ford Model T and all these things. That was 13 years, and that was a long time ago. That type of shift is happening right now, and there's no need to be scared about it. You can be a leader. It's a really a big opportunity. So to learn and get early adopters, and we're probably past that stage of even early adopters. We're like in the kind of frontier of people who are going to be adopting this, are going to stay relevant slash maybe get ahead for the next couple of years. But you definitely do not want to be putting your head in the sand and not talking about this, or at least talking with people who are informed about it. Because if you do, the gap from where you're at today to where your other people who are in your space are going to be is going to be huge, and it's going to be hard to surmount that over time because of the rapid pace at which this occurs. We're talking about speeds of things getting done that are so much faster than anything before, that that gap will just grow exponentially even as days or hours go on. So it's like it's wild how fast things are going to change. But bringing that all back down to like business and even personal life. So there's a huge shift coming, and it's already started. And you can be fearful and scared, but you should really educate yourself, talk to people who are in the know and who are passionate about it, because I love talking about it and sharing more info about it. So reach out to those types of people, get a little more comfortable, start using it day to day. And then once you get to that point, I wanted to talk about today, how do you really start integrating AI into your life? And the best way I can describe it is a mindset shift. And it's a mindset shift in the way I would summarize it is this. You need to think about AI, specifically the LLMs, right? That we can interact with, any human who's got a phone and an internet connection can interact with, right? Whether it's your computer or your phone, but you've got an internet connection and you can interact there. That capsule, that vessel now becomes any of the smartest people that you ever wanted to have in the room with you is now accessible at the drop of a hat through your phone or on your computer. So you are no longer stuck anywhere in anything that you're doing. And you really have to start thinking about that, start thinking about it like that every single day, every moment in time. Every time you have a question in your mind, a doubt or uncertainty, any type of thought, and you need to figure out what the next step is, you should immediately be thinking, how do I go to my preferred LLM? Like, let's just say ChatGPT, Claude, Manus, any Gemini, all the Copilot, any of those. It doesn't matter. Pick one. I'll give you my top ones, but pick one, go to it, and pretend that that thing is the best person or your most revered person in the space on whatever the subject or topic is. And it's wild to think because that can mean everything from, let me give you some examples in my day to day. For example, today, that meant taking a snapshot or just physically inputting it via text into ChatGPT on my phone, blood test results that would typically be reserved to only be interpreted by a humologist or oncologist. We can take that, layer it on with other symptoms, and start getting an indication of like, what does this mean? Now, is it going to replace a doctor? No. But is it going to make you more informed for a discussion with a doctor and help better understand what's going on? Yes. Another piece, I have access to a gym and I don't currently have any type of personal trainer, but I do now. It's in my pocket and it's called ChatGPT. So you can structure it in a way that it will give you a daily workout specific to your body type, weight, height, body fat percentage, what you want to do, your sleep goals, your nutritional goals, all of that can be wrapped into one simple prompt and a project in ChatGPT. And then you go to that every day, and it currently creates a workout every day for me. And then I can also have it track my macros and give me meal ideas, snack ideas, and all of that. And then I'm going to move over more towards the business side. Difficult conversations like with a client, guess what, you can have ChatGPT or Claude be Chris Voss, never split the difference, and he can be there coaching you in the moments leading up to that conversation to give you an outline, a mindset, a script, and a way to frame your conversation to get the outcome that you want. And then on the further end of the business spectrum, literally using AI and the LLMs to automate repetitive actions and tasks that you do every day in your business. Now, I am not all the way over to like full blown automation or anything like that. I've kind of taken the crawl, walk, run approach, sprint approach. And so for me personally, needed to understand, okay, what is the foundational elements? And then how do I build a really good foundation and then start layering more complexity and more autonomy on top of that? And so that's really where I've been living for the past 2 to 3 months. I've been on this journey of how do I build the foundation and the right structure so that way I can implement it not only in my business, but help others implement it in their business as well in a way that is not overwhelming. And that's a key part there is like not being overwhelming or too techy. Like it, to me, it has to be practical, tangible, and really generating value, because if it's not generating value and saving me time, like then it, I can't have that. It's got to make life better in the sense of save time, save energy. And so that progression is kind of what I've been going through. And I'm happy to dive in kind of a little bit on maybe that foundational layer block a little bit more. But I wanted to take a little break there and just say, like, that's the progression. You have the absolute world's best of any particular coach, person, thing, instructions, whatever it is now accessible to you within milliseconds of putting it into the LLM and having it return that to you.
What I find is such a barrier for a lot of people to get even to that crawl phase is what you read on social media platforms, on the news of your choice, because you hear about these like really advanced level AI enablement use cases. Like for example, let's take an example of um, your personal fitness coach, right? It's fairly basic in the sense that it's a binary relationship right now. You feed it information about, your just general profile. You, and then it returns anything that you prompted, right? What day should I work out? I feel a little tired today. Should I change my diet today? But then what we see on social media, and rightfully so, people should be excited about the potential of these capabilities. but that causes a lot of fear, right? Because then people are now talking about, hey, you can connect this to your pantry. You can connect it to your Whole Foods account on Amazon to really forecast when you need to go grocery shopping to hit your macros. Like that actually is, I think, possible, but that's something that you broach when you're in that run or sprint phase. Like that will come in time, but that foundational element of understanding first how all of these LLMs work. And I also have, my top as well, but it all depends on what you want to get out of it. Every LLM has their strengths and weaknesses, and you have to know that to leverage the right one for the outcome that you're wanting. But that foundational element is so important, man. I'm just so glad that you put that out there. That like if people were anticipating Shane to talk about this crazy kind of pie in the sky enablement of like using MCPs to connect this open source to that open source and have everything work autonomously at literally a click of a button, it can and is working, but you don't have to start there. That's the goal. You start at a foundational level where it's a binary relationship of you feed it information, you structure these models to act in this particular way as an expert in this field, and then you just engage with it. It just becomes, like we said, a strategic partner for you to really collect the best information possible for the outcome that you want.
Yeah, no, so many great points there that I'm glad we're really converging on. And one being definitely what you see out there in space and on social media and in the articles and on the news and all that stuff is just overwhelming. And it's interesting because that actually was the impetus for me to take a step back and be like, hold on, wait a minute. Like everybody's talking about agents and bots and assistants and this is automated and I don't have to work anymore. And like all this stuff is like, whoa, pump the brakes. I needed to find something that was very systems oriented and also very structured in the sense that it starts from ground zero and we build up and we build up and we build up and we keep stacking those. And then it gets more advanced as we go. Because I started this whole process when I was first starting. It was like, all right, I got to hop in and I got to start like NAN and I got to make all these automations and I got to do this because then I'll buy back so much time and I won't have to worry about all these other mundane tasks. But I quickly realized, wait a minute, you have to understand your systems, your data, how you interact, your specific use cases and applications, and how do you build a relationship with this LLM so that it actually can do what you need it to do and be fairly accurate. You know, we're trying to get 80% of the way there on certain things that you used to do 100% of from zero. So really the foundational element is first, it's the mindset shift. You have to start thinking about it. And I think in the last episode we mentioned, go please get a pay if you're working in business, or I don't, even if you're not in business, even if you're retired like my parents and things, I'm starting to have the conversations with them to start kind of training them up on it. Is it can help your life in so many different ways that you wouldn't even understand until you start getting into it. And the use cases and applications, it's infinite, literally infinite, wildly infinite. So the first step is you got to go out there, get a subscription, because then at least you have some control over data privacy. Claude is the best in data privacy as far as I'm aware. And, you know, they have HIPAA and I believe SOC 2, and you can go there and see everything. And your data is protected there. If you're on ChatGPT, we talked about this a few episodes ago. Get the paid version, go into your settings, personal data, and you want to turn off training the model on your data. So that way, anything you're feeding in is not going to go in and train the model.
Yep.
That's like, that's table stakes right there. That's the ground level. We have to start there. After that, the next step then becomes starting to think in this mindset of, we're going to use this every single day and every single situation to leverage as a feedback and a mirror to give me immediate feedback and help me work through anything that I've got going on in my life. That's part two. And then The third part is you how you interact with the LLMs. Let's just use ChatGPT for example. How and what's the best way to interact with it? Treat it like it is a human. You will want to start a few more tips here. Do not or try to work on not using your keyboard. Use voice to text. There's lots of different applications out there. Audio Pen, Whisper Flow. There's the inherent. I know on Mac they have their own. Microsoft has their own voice to text. Microsoft is not that good. I do not recommend using that. Microsoft or Max is getting a little better, but also ChatGPT and a lot of them now have their own voice to text button. Number one, talk to it like it's a human, and just like we're conversing here, even more informally. The more informal, the better. Get your do brain dumps and start getting used to interacting with it in that way, because that is how you're going to really exponentially grow your use case, your usage, the outcomes, the outputs. And then once you're kind of like conversational with it, then we can start talking about the framework of how you have the conversation with it. And maybe we'll save that for the next episode, is where I'll pick up is how do you have a conversation and how do you prompt the LLMs to get what you're wanting out of it. And but for right now, for those that are out there, if you don't have it, please go get a paid subscription to one of them. Start dabbling with it and using it day to day, and just integrating it into your life and as a kind of a habit in your life. Instead of going to Google, let's go over to Perplexity. Let's go into ChatGPT and start there. You can still do Google. I still do it once in a while, but for right now, go AI first when you're searching and get comfortable. That's you got to get there to go to any deeper level for sure.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. It's like one meal out. It's about $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus, and the benefits
Yeah.
that you get out of just that is, I think, definitely worth every dollar. It's such a good point. You got to speak the way that, you speak, not the way that you type. Um, Especially if you have, we could get into more detail around like custom GPTs. I think we did one walkthrough. Probably doesn't hurt to, do these a little bit more often. Um, but it also has its memory data bank. So as you continue to conversate with it, give feedback, in theory, it starts to understand um, the type of relationship that it wants to build with you around a specific use case. So, I find myself a lot sometimes using the temporary feature just to like get some random thoughts out there so it doesn't really store it in its memory bank. Um, I use it quite often for, conversationally talking about this, but asking it then to write me, the most effective version of this in prompt form. Then I'll bring that into my custom GPT and then start interacting. So I think that's a lot of what, Shane is going to kind of expand upon as far as how you have, effective conversations to get to an output that you can trust, have confidence in with um, as minimal inaccuracies as possible. None of this is perfect. But so is the case when you're dealing with two people having a conversation. You have to really suss out, is what I'm hearing actually true? How do we kind of unpack things that might not um, be exactly what, we think is factual? So really excited for some future episodes to now continue building on this idea of like learn, get over that, you know, initial stage of being a little too fearful, maybe a little overwhelmed, and don't go full head on into it. Just change your your search behavior a little bit, get a little bit more familiar with things, and we'll start building as a group, as a community around how to leverage this, um, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, 100%. And that was the big impetus and then takeaway that I've gotten now. And I definitely have to give credit for the program that I've been going through, which is Automate to Accelerate with Callan Faulkner. The program has been phenomenal, and it really has helped me understand and unlock that part of like, how do I build it piece by piece, brick by brick, break it down, gain the fundamentals, and then just keep building upon that. So yeah, I would say if you're on that fear spectrum, you're skeptical still, hey, that's okay. Just learn about it and start just trialing it and integrating it in your life and see if you see any benefits and results. And I assure you that no matter what, for 20 bucks a month, there will be one thing that month at a minimum. I mean, I have like one thing an hour, but for anybody out there, one thing a month you can utilize it for, and it will be well worth that $20. And it will be well worth overcoming that fear to start understanding this, because it is going to only become more pervasive and utilized and transform the interactions that we have on a day-to-day basis in big ways that we can't even imagine right now.
Before we log off, I definitely want to ask you what your top models are based on the specific use case that you have. But just to paint the picture here, guys, I certainly use different forms of not only models, but other applications that leverage these models. I think a good one for all SEOs and not even SEOs. I think Notebook LM is such a great tool to get to know. Um, so let me give you a couple of examples and like why I use what I use for
Yeah.
the information that I want to collect, and then I'll pass it over to you for some final thoughts and your top models. Um, Notebook LM has been really cool for me after I moved in with my wife into this condo, and even prior to, we had hundreds of pages worth of board meeting notes that no one is going to read through. I wasn't an active member, so I couldn't attend the meeting. All I had were, 50 to 100 pages worth of meeting notes. I put that into Notebook LM as a source, and all I did was prompted questions. I said, hey, we have a Tesla. They don't currently have electric chargers based on, the source material. What are the plans for installing electric chargers? Got that answer, right? Probably saved me hours of combing through text. I also use it professionally. Historically, a lot of the work that I would push for required not only, an SEO person to think about, intent, user behavior, target queries for a given page, but then I would have to work with a product manager to align the messaging to our brand voice, to our product value propositions. Now I can use all these reviews that we have about the platform in G2 Capterra and upload all of that information into Notebook LM and use Notebook LM as an internal product manager. I can understand exactly the pain points and the use cases that real people are using the platform to solve for. And heck, I could even ask what are some highly used keywords and terms that they use when talking about this. So it's removed a lot of friction for me professionally to get from the beginning of a strategy all the way up to getting, a mock-up of a draft for a landing page. I can now do that autonomously. And then that product manager, who in the past had to be so involved, can now just come at the very end and validate the information. I love Notebook LM for this. I think the UI is awesome. I think there are some limitations, especially around storing information into its memory data bank. I think ChatGPT is wildly better. So, I do use ChatGPT for a lot of other tactical items where each feedback that every bit of feedback that I give, I want it to retain that so that the end product becomes better and better and better. Um, so yeah, well, I think maybe next episode I can walk through what I'm looking at as far as my notebook element is concerned. I think there's a lot of personal takeaways here. Um, if there's medical docs, which I think ChatGPT is better for, but there's probably other use cases. Just helps to walk through what I'm seeing, what I'm using, and can maybe kind of turn that light bulb on for someone out there to better utilize this as well. So, with that said, I want to give you the floor for ending final remarks, but also your top models for specific use cases, whether it's personal, professional, and if you don't mind going into maybe what that specific use case is, not just kind of general like fitness, but expanding on it just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Closing remarks for this episode really want to highlight the day-to-day nature and integration of AI and how really impactful and powerful that can be. And a great little nugget here at the end for top models for different things. I love it because everybody uses things in different ways. I would say for the beginner user who's going to try and who might be looking to do start out simple but also do a lot of different things at once, ChatGPT is going to be a great place to jump off. It's especially once you have the paid version, it's really like a utility player in that it can do a lot of things and it can do them pretty well. It's not going to be the best in any particular category, but it's going to do well. And it also does very well with stored memory and getting to understand and know you. And you can also, on the backside of ChatGPT, in the settings area, you can train it and give it some really cool custom instructions so that way it learns and knows about you, and you can actually have it interview you to know you better from infancy through present day of where you're at in your life. And that's impactful because it starts to gain an understanding of your tone, things that have shaped you as a person. And then if you need help on a therapy style conversation, it can respond to you in a way that resonates the most impactfully with you. And then, so I would say starting out, probably going to be ChatGPT. If you are looking to do content and get your brand voice and really things that are going to be written well, generally Claude is going to be very, very good for that. And also, it's very, very good for data privacy. So I like to put that type of stuff over in there. Back to ChatGPT, that's where I'm kind of living right now there in Claude. And then I have replaced my Google search with any of the three, but also, or any of those two, but also added in Perplexity, which is a really cool one because it shows you what it's doing in Google and the searches that it's going and running through. And so the way that it handles researching topics and like planning a vacation or something like that, it does very, very well at that. And so I've been trialing Perplexity, but paid version, ChatGPT, Claude, Claude for content and writing and voice, ChatGPT for everything else. I also like ChatGPT for technical stuff right now, especially like feedback for engineering related tasks and research, kind of scientific, more on that side of things. It's great. And one last closing item I've mentioned it a few different times is the nice thing, the fun thing about ChatGPT is you can upload a picture. So medical things like, for instance, a week ago, our dog had something going on with it. This is Hudson the Bernese. Go find him on Instagram. Huddy the Bernese. He had a sore on his nose, on his like snout, and right around the flap. I went close up, took a picture, put it into ChatGPT. In 30 seconds, I had here are the top 5 things that it could be. Here are your next steps for at home remedies. And within 5 minutes, I had ordered everything off of Amazon, had it the next day. We started using it. It said, okay, use it 3 to 5 days. If it doesn't resolve, go see your vet. Well, after 24 hours of using it, we were good to go. Like, I mean, unbelievable amount of knowledge that is just stored and available there. And it can interpret pictures like better than humans can. So,
Amazing. And I think e-commerce has or is about to come into ChatGPT, so you can actually make purchases, and you ultimately might have to click to make the purchase itself.
mhm.
But yeah, it's getting like the speed of development, like you said, it's going so fast, and all these new capabilities are coming so quickly. So get in the know. As you were saying, that one thing that came to mind is, look, if you're like Shane, Sam, screw with you guys. Like I don't want to walk. I just want to go right to the run phase. I think Manus is pretty freaking awesome
Mm,
as well.
yeah,
Um,
big time.
I just got a dashboard created for, my target, business, target businesses that, I want to work with. So
Hmm.
like SMBs, this revenue, for the SaaS industry, I said, has their series A or B.
Hmm.
Um, and it just and went all the way down to like, if there's an SEO person there, can you give me their LinkedIn information, phone number if available? And they just provided, and it provided me with a dashboard for that. So if you want to
Amazing.
try running, I would bet that you will come back down to walking, and then, progressing up again. Because Manus really doesn't require any technical knowledge. It's kind of, a ChatGPT kind of competitor in the sense that it can do, more like agentic solutions.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a fun one to play around with if you want to, check out maybe the potential power in all of this. I think Manus is a cool one, but definitely that does not mean don't take the advice that we're sharing, especially ones that Shane just shared. It'll be a lot more sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, I love that. Been hearing good things. So lots of stuff there for people to go and check out.
Yes, sir. Well, cool, man. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge and your time today. I hope everyone found a little bit of value and maybe a tip here and there to take away. Yeah, and I look forward to the next time we meet again and are able to share even juicier updates. Thank you so
Yes,
much, Shane.
that sounds good. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Look forward to talking again soon.
Take care.